This episode of the Power Bros Movie Reviews is brought to you by Fearless Wandering Productions and our supporters at patreon.com. Did you know that patrons of the Power Bros Movie Reviews get access to a weekly patron-only bonus show called Movie Chronicles with the Power Bros? They also get early access to our main show. Join today on patreon.com for these benefits and more. And now, on with the show. Mid-1963. Stan Lee was at the top of his game, riding the huge wave with the explosive success of Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man. Stan Lee is in a predicament when he is on the hot seat needing new heroes, currently sitting as Marvel Comics editor-in-chief and head writer. He has an idea. Standing at his typewriter on a terrace in his Long Island home, trying to come up with new heroes but falling short. He'd already done the radioactive accident thing at least 3 times. So Lee had to go a different direction. He comes up with 4 characters. A guy who shoots beams from his eyes, a human ice machine, a telekinetic girl, and their mentor, a telepath in a wheelchair. Stan Lee quote, "I took the cowardly way out. I figured, hey, the easiest thing in the world. They were born that way. They were mutants." End quote. Thus, the X-Men were born.
Welcome to the Powell Bros Movie Reviews. We are on to episode 2 of our main series of season 1. And I am joining, as always, with my co-host, Tobiah Powell. Tobiah, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Excited for this episode. Excited to talk about this new movie.
Absolutely. So, what are we doing today, Tobiah?
The movie we're talking about is X-Men First Class.
Yep.
Newer X-Men movie, kind of still an older movie.
Yeah, just to remind everyone,
as far as Marvel movies go.
We're going chronological order through all of the Marvel movies. And now, because of the multiverse, pretty much everything is canon, technically, with the modern MCU. So we're, especially now that Marvel owns all these properties that they didn't own before, like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, whatever else they got. They own them all now, and so we're kind of looking at everything as a whole. And now that we're going to X-Men because they take place in this one, the 60s, and the other one's in the 70s, and then I think Dark Phoenix takes place in is it 80s or 90s? Maybe, I don't know. But
yeah, probably 80s.
Something like that. So we're following these movies in order. Last week we did Captain America: The First Avenger, which was a lot of fun to work through, and now we're jumping into the X-Men world for the next few weeks. So X-Men First Class. Tobiah, what did you think about it? Initial thoughts?
It was honestly better than I remember. I remember not really liking this movie a whole lot or having any interest in it, but after digging into it more, there was a lot of aspects of it that I quite enjoyed. Some of it I think might have been accidental on their part, and we'll get into that, and I'll get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it as well. There's a lot to say about it. There's good, bad, and ugly, but no, mostly I enjoyed it. I remember when this first came out, I was kind of just getting into the X-Men movies, the Fox movies. So this came out in 2011, I believe.
Yeah,
2011. Like so you had your Fox movies, you had the Sony Spider-Man movies, you had the MCU movies, just kind of starting up. And I like to kind of. I remember just enjoying various different universes and going to them and wanting to learn more about them. And I remember when they decided to release First Class, I believe I went back and watched all the other X-Men movies again, because I had watched them previously, but not with a whole lot of interest. But I remember this one kind of piqued my interest more into the X-Men and just wanting to follow this universe and see where they're going with it. And I do remember a lot of the continuity issues that were present even with this movie and the other ones, which we can kind of get into that. It's kind of hard because we haven't watched the other ones in this series, but it's worth noting because this one was a prequel. So it wasn't a sequel. It was it was a prequel and kind of a reboot as well for in some ways, because the last two movies that they did before this really were just not good. You had the third X-Men, and then you had X-Men Origins Wolverine, both notoriously pretty terrible films, and so they were kind of going on a losing streak, and then they released the First Class, and we're like, okay, we're kind of stepping back, we're setting a very different tone of these movies, and we're going to follow these new actors playing characters that we already know and have grown to love. And so anyways, with all that being said, I remember enjoying this a little bit more probably than you did, because I was already kind of more interested in X-Men at the time, and wanting to just see where they were going with the Fox universe, especially as we're following the MCU and everything. And yeah, I would say overall, going back to it, I enjoyed it probably more than I did before. I would say I still enjoyed it a lot back then, but I think a lot more now. And I think this one is one of the better of the X-Men movies, and I think it was well done, and it's unique in a lot of ways, which I appreciate. So especially when it comes to superhero movies, it's easy to just follow the same formula, and this one kind of took some liberties and did some new things that I think were well done, and some things I didn't really like or appreciate, which like I said, we can get into. But yeah, overall, it was fun. It's good to go back to.
Yeah, I think the story was pretty good. I liked how it was almost like the whole movie was almost like a foreshadowing of a lot of what the characters come to be, which is what we knew, because it's kind of because it takes place before. I don't know if I don't know if that was on purpose or if it was just like the whole reusing superhero movie stories or not, but I did see it seemed like kind of like a foreshadowing of a lot of stuff for how the characters turn out to be. Specifically, like the villain in this movie seemed like very much a foreshadowing of like who he was, and what his desires are exactly what Magneto's ends up being in the original X-Men trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. I would say they're the exact same motivations, just maybe a little bit less. Well, no, I mean, because he's willing to kill, and the third ones he's willing to kill people in order to reach his end goal.
Well, because the whole point, his whole ordeal was that he wanted to wipe out all the non-mutants.
Right. Yeah. So
and that was both of their exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like it could have been like he was supposed to be like almost like a foreshadowing, but also an image of what, or inspiration for what Magneto turns into, and like Magneto maybe gets some of those desires because of his interactions with this character.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think he kind of, he got a lot of inspiration from him, and I love that they referred to Eric referred to himself as Frankenstein's monster. So he's playing a little bit off of the story of Frankenstein, and so he's the product of the Doctor, and he's the evil expression of the Doctor. Even though in this one, I'd say Sebastian Shaw is still probably just as evil as Magneto ends up being, maybe a little more, but still, there's still a little bit playing off of those themes of the Frankenstein monster, the monster that's created by the Doctor, and who is Shaw. He made Magneto to be who he was, even though Magneto had that struggle throughout the movie, which I think was well handled, and especially with his interaction with Charles, and seeing them kind of grow together as characters, and Charles, even having that moment with him where he sees that memory of when Eric was a kid, and I can't remember what the memory was, but basically Eric had said, "Oh, I didn't even know that was there," but they had this like really like intimate moment between each other that really made you sympathize a little more with Eric and sympathize more with his motivations and why it is that he is doing what he's doing. I mean, his main goal throughout the movie is to kill Shaw, so it isn't necessarily nefarious towards innocent. Like but he still would be willing to. Well, maybe not willing to harm innocent people throughout the movie, but I'd say at the end, as he's fully become Magneto, he's willing to do whatever he needs to in order to get what he wants. And he starts seeing that all humans are evil and wicked, and they hate mutants, and they'll never accept mutants. And so he wants to become like the one that he wanted to kill, the one that the monster that he goes to destroy is the one that he becomes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think in this movie, I think there's a lot to talk about the villains, and because even like Magneto, he's almost not necessarily like a full villain in this movie.
Right.
He's like almost an anti-hero.
Right,
and he's just on this mission to kill him. Mm-hmm. And so, but like by the end, we kind of see him turn into a villain.
Right, and so much so that I would say that he's kind of the main focus. I mean, of the whole movie. He's in the opening scene, and he's in the final scene. I mean, Charles is also the main character as well, but I'd say primarily it's about Magneto. It's about Eric and how he became Magneto, and and the journey that he took to get there to be the character that he is in the modern day X-Men movies and the trilogy. So like, so I would say even Sebastian Shaw, like he's kind of a one-dimensional villain. I would say he's just evil for evil's sake. He's just kind of there to move the plot forward. And I love that they had Magneto be the one that kills him in the end, because that was kind of the final shift for Magneto to become the character that we know. And it kind of was like, oh yeah, so Sebastian Shaw is like, it's not even Charles who kills him. It's going to be Eric, the one who's been trying to kill him and tried to, or defeat him even. Like I would say Charles was using he was in his mind. That was another thing that was really, I think, well done. How Charles was in Sebastian Shaw's mind, and Eric had to put the coin through his head, knowing that it was going to harm Charles, because Charles was controlling him and preventing him from putting the helmet back on or stopping Magneto. So that kind of showed, that was kind of like a poetic break of the friendship that they'd built up and created. That really kind of propelled Magneto towards the direction he goes, and Charles in the direction he goes. And we see there's just a lot to talk about. We see the rise and fall of both characters in the movie. So at the beginning, Charles, he lives in a mansion. He's wealthy. He comes, from a wealthy family. And Eric comes from poverty. He's low, and you find him. I think the first scene, you have Charles, rising up from his warm bed, and Magneto falling to the mud, like in the dirt. Like he's from the lowest.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of correlations through that whole segment in the beginning between the two of them, showing the two very different backgrounds that they have, and kind of almost like their background showing what their future was going to be like. I mean, Xavier even tells. What's her name? The blue girl, that they have as much food as they could possibly need. Yep. Like he literally said, we have everything you possibly need. Yep. Take what you want. Right. And then they show Magneto, who has nothing at all, and he's just completely broken and has nothing. He loses his parents. Yep. Or it's just his mom or something, and his dad was gone already or something. Right. But
probably off fighting.
But yeah, like he's losing everything, and Xavier's saying like, I have everything I could possibly need.
Right, exactly. And then at the end, you have Magneto getting what he wants, killing the man who ruined his life, killed his mother, and then you see Charles, who really kind of loses. They are saved. The mutants are saved and are seen in a better light than they were probably before. But he gets shot in the back by Magneto. Like, it was Magneto's fault that he got paralyzed, and so he fall. Like, so you see his fall in a sense, and that actually is more developed in the next movie, which I'm looking forward to watching that one again. But like Eric, or Charles is just kind of like he's at rock bottom, and he's kind of almost pretty much throwing everything away.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, and then you see his development in the next movie as well, which kind of leads more to him becoming the Charles that we know. We don't get that a whole lot this one, but he does become the leader. He becomes a professor and teacher. He starts off as just a party animal, and and it doesn't really.
Yeah, that was one thing about him, is that he was like he's very immature in this one. You can very much tell that he's not a good leader.
Yeah,
and that's also what I would say kind of leads him to not be able to save Magneto and not be able to change his mind. It's just a lack in leadership.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. One thing you said about the villain, how you thought he was kind of one-dimensional, I agree, but I do think in this movie it was better than Red Skull.
Yeah.
Because they set up a connection almost for the audience to not like him because he kills Magneto's parents, and so that gives a little more personal connection to him, a little more personal like hatred for him to the audience. Because like with Red Skull, we didn't get any there was no reason we didn't like him. Like he killed people, but it was just he was a Nazi, random people that we didn't care about. Yeah. So but this one, it was it's this kid's mother that he's killing, and so that it made more of a personal connection. I thought that was pretty good.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I loved we can talk about the villain a little more. I loved Kevin Bacon in that role. I think he did a good job. You can get into comic book accuracy a little bit in that, because his character in the comics, just me doing a little bit of research, is completely really different. He's a lot more stoic and less charismatic, and older as well. He's really rugged and just rough, a little bit different than how Kevin Bacon portrays him, which is fine, because it's not like a super well-known villain or anything. But I thought Kevin Bacon did a good job, and you're right. They gave us reason to hate him, and he wasn't like a sympathetic villain. He was just a true pure villain, pure evil. Yeah,
it was good. Yeah, and they I think he was also because he was a lot smarter. He had a lot of plans. He with the helmet and stuff. He was very, very well prepared. In contradiction to Red Skull, that's kind of our basis that we're going off of right now. But I think compared to him, he had more plans. Because he knew Magneto was coming after him. In one scene. I can't remember what it was. I thought I'd written it down, but I don't know. But there was a scene where he knew he was going to be coming, and he did something. He had that crystal lady, and she did something to stop him. But you could really see, that his plans and knowing that there's people with mind control and preparing for that and stuff. I thought that was a lot better to show this guy's very smart, so that means he's more of a threat, and to just kind of dig deeper into who he is and make the audience more anxious about him, I'd say.
That's good. Yeah, no, you're right. That's really helpful. Yeah.
What do you say? Oh, just that he's also a Kevin Bacon variant, I guess.
Because he's in Guardians.
Because Guardians
Galaxy.
Yeah, because he's in Guardians. And since this is all connected now, he's a Kevin Bacon variant.
Nice. So Footloose is technically in the canon. Is that it? I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Star-Lord, is obviously a huge fan of him.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So more on Magneto and what they did with him.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if they did this on purpose or if they're trying to go the other way with it. So this is going to get kind of political.
That's all right. I've had some comments as well.
What his points were basically, don't be ashamed of who you are. Right. That was Magneto's whole. That was his point, and that's what leads him to want that purist ideology of like, we need to get rid of anybody that's not like us.
Yeah.
And so I just thought there could definitely be some political correspondences there, but I was wondering, like, thinking like, okay, did they do that on purpose for him? Because like, are they trying to make him more of a good guy? And just because of the way we think, that we're like, well, that just kind of just shows that he is a bad guy, and the way other people think isn't good.
Yeah.
Or do you think that they were trying, like, do you think they were trying to make him good by putting those things in them, in like those points for him? Or do you think that it was just to, like, almost a political statement saying this other stuff is bad?
Yeah. I don't know, because they definitely put Magneto or Eric in a more of a good, like he's more of a good guy in this than he is in other things.
Yeah.
He's always been an anti-hero, like in some ways. He's more villainous in the original movie, so which they kind of that's how they concluded this one. I felt like, and there's more development in the next 3 X-Men movies.
There's 3 more.
There's more like development there. I think most of it happened in this one, and they definitely made him more like they wanted you to sympathize with him and see his motivations and recognize that, okay, they from their point of view, that he has good motivations in some ways, and the whole you be who you are.
Because I wonder if the point was to agree with him, right, and that, like, you should be who you are, or if the point was to be like, no, this leads to destruction, because we know what he ends up being because of these thoughts. Right. Like, these thoughts end up leading him to destruction. Right.
Yeah, like, I would say kind of both, and because they definitely conclude that, because he becomes like Sebastian, like he turns into the character, the person that he vowed to destroy, like that he hated, and so we're left to believe at the end, it's like, okay, so the path that he took was the wrong, I would say probably the wrong path. I don't know if that's what they intended, because there might have been that more of attention, like, well, you need to they want us to sympathize with him and see that, what how he views things is the right way. But then again, they still left it as in he becomes the villain. And he is even to ruin his friendship and relationship with Charles to get there, even if it wasn't intentional. Like, I love that when Eric blames the one lady, the CIA agent, for shooting Charles, and Charles like, no, Eric, you did this. This was your fault. So even he was kind of blind to see the fact that he was at fault, and that's kind of, and every villain thinks he's doing the right thing for the most part in his own eyes, and that's kind of the thing where he deceived himself in his pursuit to reach the end that he wanted to reach, even if it was the wrong end. And he was going to kill the CIA agent lady, but Charles, I think, stopped him, or I can't remember exactly how that ended. But so there could have been gender. Yeah. But the thing about the X-Men, I mean, this is a good segue. The X-Men, like, even in the comics, like the X-Men came into comic book scene back in I think I wrote it down, 1963. So this was like right in the middle of the civil rights movement. In fact, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, two of the creators of the X-Men, they had often said that the X-Men were meant to represent the struggle against racism and segregation, and like that was an influence on the characters. Like, they are, these outcasts, they're a minority that people look down upon, that society looks down upon, and they're the story in the comics is that they aren't any different. They have their differences. They have this mutation, but it's something that they should celebrate. They should be proud of.
Yeah.
Mutant and proud was the theme throughout the movie. And so X-Men's always been kind of political. They've had like a political perspective as far as why they are what they are. That's why I think X-Men are really unique to a lot of other superheroes. Because usually these people are born with these mutations. It's not bestowed upon them, but they're born with it. So like, and I'm like, obviously there are heroes that are born with superpowers. Superman. I'm blanking on others, but there are that's typical. But that's the whole point of like being a mutant is you are different than other people. And there's good messages and good things to draw from that. Like, it's okay to be yourself, if it's aligned with truth.
Yeah.
If it means being good, beautiful, if it's good, beautiful, and true.
Yeah.
Like, and
well, a thing that I kind of saw through with Xavier's side is that it really comes down to, like, I believe this was his point, is that it's not about what you are, it's about doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it really came down to.
Yep.
But they did, I mean, in this movie they did kind of make him look bad by, like, he basically said that I'm blanking on her name
Mystique.
again, but the blue lady, that she's ugly.
Yeah.
Like, he basically said that a few times.
Right.
But when you get past that and you kind of look at like what his overall message is, especially towards the end of the movie, you can really tell that like it was never about what you are. Like, he never cared about that. He just wanted to make sure everybody was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. So I would say, his motivations were, for the most part, right. But I think he had some errors in that, and he had to learn, and he grew throughout the movie. Yeah. So like, mutants in general are meant to represent the culturally oppressed people. There's a reason why they set this movie in the 60s again, like, which is when the X-Men began. It's because it was like, this movie took place in the middle of the civil rights movement. So you have Martin Luther King, and you have the extreme of like Malcolm X, who's pretty much so more of like far extreme of like, I'd say white like white people are wicked, evil, and then you have Martin Luther King that would say that all people are created equal in the eyes of God, and so forth. Yeah,
there's a lot to talk about with the villains in this one.
I
really didn't even...
go ahead.
No, you go ahead, sorry.
I even wrote this down, but Charles's whole point is that people shouldn't be judged by their outside appearance, but it's about what they choose to do. What's at the heart of the character? What are your motivations, and what do you do with what you have been given as a mutant? And the difference between Eric and Charles is Eric, especially going on into further development of his character in the other movies, like, he would say that mutants are the superior race, and they're better than non-mutants. Charles would say, well, no, we're equal. Like, we have inequality. So that is kind of the Martin Luther King side of, the civil rights movement. That like all people are created equal, and we shouldn't judge people for the color of their skin, but the character of their heart. I butchered that quote, but that was Martin Luther King. Or maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, well, it was him. I just don't know if I said it right. But either way, that's that's Charles's point, and so he's not wrong in that. Of course, you can take that too far in some ways, and I think people do. But that's just the nature of the X-Men.
Like and like at the end of the movie, he was so disappointed in Mystique for leaving, because he sees that she is making the wrong choice by going with the bad guy, and you can see that really hurt him. Not necessarily because, it's because he was losing a friend, and that's why you can see that was hurting him, in that seeing that she cared so much about her appearance that she's trying to, she's choosing that side over doing the right thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So were you wanting to say something else about the villains? I guess I have a few other things.
No, I think we covered it.
I was going to mention.
Let's see something.
So I think it was Angel, the black lady who plays Catwoman in the new Batman movie. She she's the only mutant that went over to the other side when Sebastian infiltrated the facility. And
Yeah.
that was kind of odd. Like, I feel like that one, that I didn't like, it wasn't like they were moving that character in that direction, or right, and she's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go over here, and then she's just evil. She's just bad. Like, she hates even the friends that she the friendships that she built. So it's kind of like odd.
That
choice.
was very weird that she was attacking them.
Here, here.
We thought that was, we both noticed that.
Yeah,
it was weird.
And then the Emma Frost, I think that's her name, the Crystal lady, her played by January Jones, the actress's name. She was really kind of just like a flat character. It just was there. If any, like, I don't know. I felt like there wasn't much to her character. She was just, she wasn't really given much to do except for dress in scantily clad clothing and do whatever Sebastian said.
The whole point of her.
Yeah, exactly. which is another thing about this movie. Just as we're talking to parents and talking about whether or not you should let kids watch it. Like, a lot of the women in this are very inappropriately dressed, and which is kind of was a point as well with set in this time frame, coming like before the 70s, and I think they played off this a lot. Women were kind of lower class citizens during this time, in a sense, at least from the perspective of the writers. Like, they have like the misogynistic quote at the end where it's like, this is why you shouldn't let women in office or power or whatever. I can't remember what I think that's what he said. But there was a few other comments. It's like they kind of sexualized a lot of the women in this, and I think it was for kind of a reason, just to say, like, this was kind of how women were portrayed back then, and then, but also with modern day twists, it's like, oh, they're still kind of portrayed this way, but they can be whatever they want to be, and they could dress however they want to dress, and even if it's just seduces men and whatnot, it's just, I don't know. It was, I didn't really like that aspect of the movie.
It was pretty much with every female character in this. I think literally every female character in this movie was CIA was.
But even then, it's
like, she stripped down to her underwear.
Never mind. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's literally every single woman in this movie that dresses very scantily. Yeah. It was there was I feel like definitely a lot of. This is where you get into like that the producers are just perverts. I mean,
right.
When it's Absolutely. if it was like too like you were saying, to kind of show what the times were like or whatever, and how women were mistreated.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to make every single woman in your movie dress like that.
Right. Exactly.
It's just female exploitation, and that's where the true misogyny is.
Yep.
Is dressing women like that. And like when they say like, oh, a woman shouldn't be in office, or I don't know, whatever that guy said. Yeah. It's like, that's like the true misogyny is putting them in these roles and making them dress like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you're just sexualizing women and using them as objects, and that's kind of the thing with Mystique's character when she undresses for Charles, pretty much, like, and when she's blue, like, and Charles is kind of like feels awkward about it and weird. It's like, well, that's kind of the point. She's just being who she is, and even that means she can be naked and like sexualize herself, even though it's her blue, whatever, which isn't. It's just body paint. No, yeah. So I mean, it's a suit, but anyways, so inappropriate and wrong and just kind of garbage.
Yeah. So what do you think of some of
go ahead.
Female roles? Like, how do you besides that, like, how did they handle just like their character?
Like I said, Emma Frost, I didn't really like her character, or I just felt like there wasn't much to her. The CIA agent, I feel like story could have done without her. Like, I mean, she does drive the plot along. It was weird when they kissed at the end. I don't know what, like, that. I didn't feel like they were setting that up at all. Maybe I missed it. Charles and her.
What was that?
Charles and like they have a moment where they kiss, and it's like, well, that wasn't really earned, or didn't seem like they were going that direction. Maybe I missed it, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have thoughts about that? I'm kind of blinking.
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think for the most part, it wasn't like.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, like, I think it was pretty good in the sense that a lot of it wasn't, like, forced in, like, women, female power, females ruling over men.
Right. Females trying to be men.
It went, I think that in that sense, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the females, I felt like for the most part were actually being females. Even with Emma Frost, like, I feel like a lot of the reason she's the way she was because of the man that she was trying to submit to and how he treated her badly.
Yeah.
But, like, she was trying to submit to him, it seemed, which, like, that was a good thing.
Uh-huh.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like, this,
like, none of the women, like, were trying, like, she wasn't trying to be the boss.
No, she wasn't. Like, she was just a companion, a sidekick, but, like, like a kind of like a wife character to him. Yeah. Even though he was it was like a wife in a toxic relationship. It was toxic. Yeah, exactly. Saying. So, like, she was right in that.
But she was right in her role, but just because of the toxic relationship, that's where all her downfalls came.
Yeah. True, because he led her in the wrong direction.
Because of who she's submitting to.
Absolutely.
So it was I thought like a pretty good representation of of when a woman is doing most of what she's supposed to do, but the man that's leading is not doing at all what he's supposed to.
Right, exactly. And then it leads to her not being a beautiful, good character. Because he treats her like garbage. He's not a good leader and not a good husband to her in a sense. No, that's a good point. Yeah, and then the female CIA agent. I kind of forgetful. I don't even remember her name. Do you remember her name? Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like. I mean, besides when she, took her clothes off and whatever, I don't know. I don't really remember her really trying to be anything other than an agent. She wasn't like trying to be better than the men or trying to be like a man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, no, there wasn't really anything.
There's no like agenda there. I would say, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I think for the most part they were handled all right. Besides the men who wrote these characters and sexualized these women and were being perverts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's most everything I had to say about most of the plot. I mean, we can talk about the Dark Knight of the Soul and how they handled that and some of that. Unless you had something else just to say about the villains, heroes, or
I think
any other plot things before the
I like
Dark Knight of the Soul.
Like I said, I like that they focused a lot on Eric and Charles, and like the story was about them, and it wasn't even really about Sebastian Shaw, but it was about the man that he created, the monster that he created in Eric, and then Charles's conflict with him. I feel like their relationship was a little like rushed and like, Charles goes in and saves him in the water and then they're best buds after that. It was kind of forced.
That was rushed.
It was just rushed. I feel like the pacing in the movie was, I don't know, like if you felt it, like it was like there was a moment where it was just like really rushed. Like they're literally like 2 lines of dialogue, and then they jump to another scene, and then like a couple lines of dialogue, jump to another scene, and it was just kind of like all over the place. And then you get to the training montage, and I felt like it actually kind of slowed down, even though usually montages are like quicker. But like I felt like this, like, because they kind of stayed in this one place for a while when they like kind of rushed up to here, and so I felt like the pacing was a little.
And I think we see that a lot in group heroes.
Yeah, that's true.
And we will see that a lot, and we'll be able to talk about that for sure.
Right. Yeah, because this was because
you're dealing with so many characters. Yeah, you're dealing with so many characters, and all in different stages, and especially when you have to have characters meet and basically have them become friends like that. So they did force it. I feel like they could have definitely done it differently and better, but yeah, it was forced for sure. I definitely noticed that because it was pretty far into the movie before they even met each other.
I think so, yeah.
And then they already had to be best friends by that point because you're already so far in the movie, and then you if you're making it so that they have this relationship through the movie, it's like. And
I think they did that because for the audience, we know the characters really well, and so we just kind of they kind of assumed a lot of things and just saying, all right, they're best buds, and then we know them later on, in the other movies as well, if you've seen those, because this is a prequel, so you have to consider that and whatnot. So I like their dynamic, Xavier and Eric. It was compelling, even if it was rushed. I felt like seeing the two sides of the coin, and then the imagery with the little coin was really good too. But which there's a lot to that. But he's I think Eric was well handled. I think he's definitely my favorite part of the movie. And like the fact that like it seems like they have the same goals, and I think Charles said something where it's like, even to this point where it's like to Eric, like you think that we want the same thing, but we really don't, and in that Eric's true character is revealed, and then he gives birth to Magneto and becomes the villain that he eventually becomes. So that was good.
Yeah, I feel like when with their relationship, the time that like you really got to really like, and you saw that connection was with that scene that you had mentioned, like when he shows him those memories, and sorry, it's just kind of going back to their quick progression, but like I feel like because they put that scene in there, it kind of made it work,
right?
And I think that's what maybe what they're hoping.
I think so. Yeah,
it would make it work, but yeah.
Just maybe touch on comic book accuracy once again. I mentioned Sebastian Shaw. I think because we do want to put this in consideration in all the movies that we're watching. The X-Men's always been unique because, like, if you look at, which we're not talking about these, but just real quickly, if you go to the original trilogy of the X-Men Fox movies, they took a very darker tone than the comics. There's a lot, even like the 90s TV show, which I'm actually watching again because we're going through X-Men movies. I was like, I'm gonna go watch that TV show a little bit, which is actually pretty good, pretty fun. So when you get to this one, I like that, like, they had the students, all the other heroes, which comment about characters and heroes. Like, I feel like all the other characters in the movie were kind of forgetful. The one guy that died, right away. The one that can like absorb power or adapt to things. I didn't really care when he died. Like, it wasn't like we really had any reason to like the character. I feel like that's how it was with a lot of the other ones. But like when they in the third act, when they got the suits, like they were the traditional yellow suits that we see in the comics. So they did that. But like with any origin story for superheroes, it's hard to kind of judge comic book accuracy because they're not the characters that we know in the comics. They're becoming the characters that we know, and so there's a lot of differences. Like Eric obviously isn't bald and he's not in a wheelchair, and until
Yeah.
But we get that we get that comment.
Yeah,
About,
and he's very, very young, and
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's
very
just not
different
even...
than the man that we see in the other ones, which was good. Like we saw his development, and we saw him change and grow his character, and we'll see him that more in the other ones. But so that was good. And I think some of the heroes in the movie were some of like the students, the teenagers. I think there was a lot of I think a lot of accuracy when it comes to the comic books for most of them. I think it was Havoc who I think they took a little bit of, they went a little different route with him. Like I don't think his beams are red in the comics. I think they're like silver or gray or white or whatever. So that's different. But
yeah,
I mean it's little details like that. But like Magneto's suit at the end, that was spot on. Like that was like maybe even better than the other Fox movies. But I thought that was great.
Yeah,
Like he became, and it was just going back to character development. Like he became Magneto, and they helped us see that by giving him the Magneto suit that we see in the comics and that we see him wear later on. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Yeah, and then not in comic book accuracy.
Yeah. Okay.
But the casting, was a good transition to that.
Yeah. Definitely.
I thought all the acting was just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I think all around. As far as casting for the characters, man, I've never really liked what's his name for Xavier.
James McAvoy.
Was Xavier. Yeah.
Really?
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal actor, but I just feel like I'd never felt like he was Xavier though. Like I've never
Patrick
just felt
Stewart.
that connection. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. Like I wonder. Like, do you have anyone else in mind like that could play that role better of a young Xavier? I think that's just hard to. I'd say it's a young Patrick Stewart. Yeah, I would say there's some maybe issue there. Like I don't really see that.
Yeah.
But even like Xavier, like I said, I was watching the animated series, and Xavier is a lot different. He's definitely younger than Patrick Stewart is, and that's his name, right? Mm-hmm. Patrick Stewart. Yeah. He's younger than he is in the other movies. So like, and I would say like that character is maybe more like James McAvoy. Maybe not. I don't know. So yeah, that I don't know. I can see what you're getting at.
Yeah, it's just always been kind of a personal thing. Like I never really could see him as that. I think that's very heavily influenced because of Patrick Stewart.
Right, that's fair.
Of just an image I have of who Xavier is.
Yeah,
and
for sure
for that. But I think in the later movies when he does finally get bald, I think that kind of helps too.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, all the acting was great. I mean, James McAvoy is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I have no complaints about his acting.
Yeah, and then Michael Fassbender. That's his last name, right? Michael Fassbender. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think.
Yeah.
I loved the first kind of handful of scenes that we see of him. They're very like the scenes where he's hunting down Nazis and trying to find Shaw. Those are very well, I would say well directed scenes. Very intense. We can get into the score as well in those because I thought that was well done. But there was almost like horror thriller type scenes, and it's very intense and leave you on the edge of your seat. And the violence in this movie is I think a lot more closer to. I mean, it's not rated R, but it's like a hard PG-13. I think violence, especially with the coin at the end. But even at the beginning where Eric's stabbing those guys with the knives and brutally killing them, and then ripping the filling out of that one dude's mouth and whatnot. But anyways, I thought that was done. And so even talking about the score, I think it was the first scene where he's in I think it was the bar. I mean, not the first scene. It was one of the first scenes where we see of him and kind of going through that montage, not montage, going through those different trying to hunt down the Nazis and find Shaw.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. They actually play the theme for Frankenstein's monster in like the old Frankenstein movies. They play the theme and then they mix it with Magneto's theme as well from the first X-Men movies. So
oh, cool! I did not notice that.
That's
cool.
It's super cool. So like the guy that did the score, his name I'm blanking. I know his name. His last name's Jackman. It's actually it's H Jackman. So like Hugh Jackman, but he's like Henry Jack. Or, I can't remember what his name was, but anyway.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I think he did a great job with the score throughout the movie. I don't know if you had any other comments on that, but just that scene in general, like it was just I think it was well done and playing on that theme with Frankenstein's monster. It was cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing like particular like that I noticed, but I feel like with any good music score, it's not going to be distracting and it's going to be leading you emotionally without you even noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they did that really well in this movie.
Yeah.
Because there was no large points when I was like distracted by the music, and I felt like I remember with Captain America I did feel that a few times. And with this one I didn't feel that at all, and I thought they did great.
I agree with that. Definitely not distracting, but helps build the tension and play on the emotions of the audience. It's well done.
And then what'd you think of the CGI?
CGI. I think it was pretty well done for 2011. There was nothing that was really distracting, I don't think.
No, I think it was really good. I think that they probably did a lot of practical effects
for sure,
which is always helps your production a lot. Like if you think of like the metal fence when he was pulling it, like that whole scene was just so great. Like, and I don't know if they used any CGI in that. Like, I don't know if the rain was CGI. I don't know if the metal bending was CGI or if it was practical. But it was all like really good. And then just all throughout the movie, it's just nothing in it that really made you be like, oh, that's CGI.
Right.
I mean, maybe the coin a little bit, but I don't even think that really looked super
wasn't
CGI.
That bad. No. I like that they use this is kind of going back onto a different topic, but they used the use of the coin was really good because it was the Shaw told Magneto to move the coin on the table at the beginning of the movie, and he couldn't, and then that's how his mother died, and then he uses the coin and moves the coin at the end of the movie to kill Shaw, so like using that is a way to, I don't even know what to call it, but just that form of storytelling was
bring it full circle.
Full circle,
they brought it full circle. No, that was really great.
Definitely.
But
CGI, I think it was well done. Nothing too distracting, and it's good. Before we finish, just wanted to remind everyone that we have a Patreon. If you would like to support us, support what we're doing in this podcast, go ahead and find us on Patreon, the Powell Bros Movie Reviews. We do an after show after each episode. It's usually about another hour of content, just discussing what's going on in the world of movies and film and stories, and also we usually talk about different the Stan Lee cameos in the Marvel movies. We like to discuss those, which this one actually didn't have one, but we're actually going to talk about the Wolverine cameo instead, which was really fun. Anyways, if you'd like to support us, we also talk about end credit scenes as well. Just want to point that out.
And just anything else going on in movies.
Yep. So
any other movie news, anything going on in the world of film and stuff.
Right. So go ahead and support us there, and thank you for that support.
So was there anything you wanted to say before we moved on to rating and ranking.
I don't think so. You mentioned Dark Knight of the Soul.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything about that real quick?
So I kind of, yeah. So I kind of feel like it was when the whole world was turning against them.
Yeah.
If you'd agree with that.
I think so.
Which is kind of weird that it wasn't with the villain. Because usually Dark Knight of the Soul is because of the villain. And so, but with this movie, it felt like it was when the world was turning against them.
Which actually I think makes sense because they focused the story mostly on Charles and Eric. And so that really, that really put the tension between the two characters that led them on the two paths that they go on. And so that forced them both to make a choice, a decision that was very hard for them both to make. You know, do we kill all these guys that are shooting missiles at us, or do we let them live? And do we do the right thing? Do we show that mutants can live with humans, or should we say that mutants are superior and be rid of those that would oppose us and try to harm us? So that's, I don't know. That's right. I assume that's probably why they did it, because it wasn't. You're right. It wasn't with the villain, and they killed the villain kind of earlier than I think most superhero movies do, because they wanted to establish Magneto and show like this is a story about Charles and Eric. This isn't necessarily. This is about the Frankenstein's monster and then Charles. Like that was. I think that was probably the reason why they did that.
Yeah, and they had a lot of loose ends to kind of to tie up, so they had to, with all the characters, and that's just things like that you just see with movies with a lot of characters. Yeah, but I think it was kind of going back to what I was saying about what Xavier, one of his biggest downfalls through the movie was his poor leadership, and I feel like the character didn't notice it, that he needed to become a better leader, but like just knowing that he was a bad leader and that he failed with Magneto kind of shows that that's what, like, he has to overcome that to make a change. Right. And that was like kind of that was like what he needed to repent of, but he didn't necessarily do that in this movie.
No.
But he, I mean, and this is a trilogy, so we'll see how his character develops and stuff. But knowing that fact, like when you see it, you can see that he like kind of realizes that he's the one that failed him in a sense.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't think I had really anything else to talk about. That pretty much covers it all.
We can go and do you want to do rating or ranking first?
Let's do rating and then rank.
Cool.
So what did we get? I think we gave Captain America, what is it, 6.6, or wait, you had like what, 6.4 and I had 6.8 and we met in the middle.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was, so like what, 6.6?
No, I think I just did 6. I think I just put a 6.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right. So 6.4.
So our ranking 6.4.
Yeah, that was it.
Was our ranking for this.
Okay, so 6.4. That's the only movie we've done, so that's where it ranks. So this one, I'll give mine. My rating was a 7.1. I was kind of going 7.1, but 7.1. What would you do?
I did a 7.
Solid.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm okay with doing a 7. Well, I don't know, unless you want to go up to 7.1. It doesn't really. It's just one point. But
I think
when we're doing like 90 to 100 movies, I think it's important that we have a consistent rating. So
yeah, I'm fine with doing 7.1.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I do think this, like, so we gave Captain America 6.4. Like, I would say this is a good amount, like, a lot better of a superhero movie, and a better movie overall. So so I think 7.1. It's solid. Okay.
Cool. So this puts it above First
Captain
Avenger.
America. So we got, of our ranking list, on our ranking list, we have X-Men First Class in number 1 and Captain America First Avenger number 2.
Yep.
So what movie are we doing next?
Not bad. Next one is X-Men Days of Future Past.
I am very excited about this one.
That's one
of my favorites.
That's quite
It's been a
a
while
movie.
since I've seen it, but
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Yeah, I think I've watched that one way more than I've seen First Class.
probably, yeah. Yeah, because
yeah.
this was so, and this gets a little bit more into our after hours show, but this was the first X-Men movie that didn't have a major focus on Wolverine. Like Wolverine is kind of the main character of the first three movies, and then they did X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then this one he just has a cameo. But then the next one they go back to Wolverine being the main focus of the movie. So it was interesting, like thinking about these X-Men movies, like Wolverine has been a huge focus, and then they did a X-Men movie without Wolverine, and I think they did a good job with it. But that was I think it was definitely a risk that they took, but I don't think Wolverine would have fit into this movie or this plot very well anyway. So it was good.
Yeah,
it was fine.
Yeah,
it's okay to not have some Hugh Jackman every once in a while.
Yeah,
at least when it comes to X-Men.
Yeah, no, I think it worked. I think there's some good ranking and rating.
Yep,
I think we have it nice and set.
Yep. So,
cool.
Tobiah, would you like to close this out?
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. That was our overall review of X-Men First Class. We appreciate your support, and if you want to hear more of us, you can head over to patreon.com/the Pal Bros and support us there. We'll be putting out some episodes with every main episode that we post. So, thank you for listening, and we look forward to doing our next movie review and have you guys listen.
Yep. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're out.